We understand an upside-down world. But they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more because we have an appointment with destiny.
On to Division 3. Number 1 is Victory Christian. Number 2 is High Tech San Diego. 1 and 2 or the field?
I would say 1 or 2 right now.
I'm going to say 1. I'm all in on 1 because I voted for them in the top 10 in my final top 10 vote. And so I have to ride or die. Also, try to get in good with Coach Will Gray at Hoover. And just say, Coach, I'm sorry that I pick against you in football, but I like your kid in basketball. Yeah, maybe just a little. I also like the story of this team is in D3 not because of a title run, but just because of aggregate good seasons, but is now seen as like putting it all together in 1 year, and they're still a really small school for this division. Like, it would make more sense if this was a team where we could quantify it as, oh, look, in the last 3 years, they've housed a D5 and a D4 title, and they're coming into, this should be the first good test. All of this is going to be a real true test to make it through this bracket. From start to finish.
They've done a good job building the program on the fly. A couple years ago, they had Vinny Signorelli come in and really change things for them last year, making it to the Division 4 championship game. And then they graduated a lot from that team. But then, getting Jaden Gray as a freshman to come in was huge. And then adding Derek Edmond from Granite Hills was also like a coup. It was these are guys who, in the summertime, they're playing against the very best players.
They're what we would traditionally call just good basketball, like notable off-season basketball play. Like they play in the good.
These are guys who would in other circumstances would be at open division and division.
Yeah, if you just had to look at their off-season play in the AAU realm, you'd be like, oh, that you could convince me that kid starts at Carlsbad or something like that. Yeah.
Yep. So
you like them then in number 1 versus number 16 game to take on Fallbrook.
But man, Fallbrook's playing really good basketball. Are we talking about us at number
16 seed? Are you picking us in the right
now? I think it's going to be closer than people will expect.
Woo!
That kid, Sammy Carmona at Fallbrook, is a problem. I don't think people have seen him. I mean, he's 6'4" guard, just athleticism on top of athleticism, has thrown down highlight dunks all year. Getting Malachi Brotherton on the team eligible as well, that really changed things for them. They got a lot of guys, man. They got pieces, but Victory has more.
Just talking about eligibility makes me cringe because it's such an avoidable thing. It's so avoidable.
It's so
avoidable to just take a little bit of time and be like, look, just show up to class. Just do the bare minimum.
Do the bare minimum.
Number 8, Mission Vista takes on number 9, Steel Canyon. Steel Canyon and Mission Vista are kind of geographically far away from each other, don't play a ton, don't have a ton of common opponents, but both play a decently tough league schedule, and you could make a wash that this game could be a coin flip. It could go either way. Who you got?
I'm picking Steel. 9 in the 9-8 upset.
Because Steel don't bend. Break don't bend. Whatever Valhalla kids say. Then they say back to each other. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah.
I really like Alex Jenkins, and Alex Williams.
After seeing that alley-oop, I like Alex Jenkins as well. Because, bro.
Man, he's put a couple of guys in body bags this year. It's been pretty much that was the first play of the season. Against Hilltop. In the last play I saw him, he threw down that dunk against West Hills and got, just DQ'd from the game because he got a technical, and that was his 5th foul.
Probably a flagrant one as well, just for the severity of the dunk.
It was ugly. I like them because they're playing really good basketball right now at this time. And
play your best ball at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I think Mission Vista, it's funny, I talked to Coach Foster before I came in. I asked him, I see you guys had a lot of close margins down the stretch. Is it more you guys not being healthy, or what's going on? He's like, a little bit of it. They've had some COVID, cold, flu things going on, But then on the other side of it too, the teams got a lot better in that league. Valley Center improved. Fallbrook improved.
That's what I said. They had a tough
San
league.
Paul School
Yeah,
Hall.
like they had maybe an untraditionally tough league.
Yeah, but for them to, they won the league. Congrats to them. Steel Canyon also won that league and took down a West Hills team and gave them one of their 4 losses on the season or 5 losses on the season, whatever it was. But very impressive indeed down the stretch for Steel.
We're also at D3, so not to discredit the other divisions that we have talked about, but we are at the point now where we're out of the they're 8 games under 500, but they got a tough schedule. Like all of these are pretty competent basketball teams. All of these are teams that if you put them just in a vacuum, you'd be like, that's a serviceable. Yeah. That's a serviceable high school basketball team. Number 8 West Hills. Or number 5 West Hills, per what I see on here, is no longer number 5 West Hills, or is number 5
West Hills?
They
are now number 5 West Hills.
They are now number 5 West Hills. I don't want to get into this at all. They're going to take on Central Union. They're going to go to Central Union because Central Union is the league champs. And this is kind of what you were talking about previously. If you don't love the way that this is set up, and I don't know how to fix that because you should have some incentive for winning league, but I'm with you that
you make the playoffs. If you win league, you make the playoffs. Period. But no guarantees beyond that. That's what I think.
I'm fine with that.
And there are teams who will, win their league and be like the 17 or 18 seed. I've seen it happen in Division 3 over the years, Division 5 especially.
Well, so then let's talk about this game. The 12-seeded Central Union plays host to the 5-seeded West Hills. Who do you like here?
I think Central wins this one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love it.
I talked about this last night on my marathon podcast.
Which, bro, you're nailing it this year. So proud.
Thank you.
I was so proud. I love that. Even considering that you had to potentially talk about pulling the ripcord on it because the comment section was getting vile.
Proud
of you, man.
It was pretty hairy for a while, but the kids have calmed down. But I talked about it being an RBV Central game, but looking at West Hill Central, Jared Martin from Central Union, who's also a big-time football player, D lineman.
Yes.
Yeah, sack master extraordinaire. I think he poses a really bad matchup for West Hills. And I think that and the fact that, it's the only, between Imperial and Central hosting games, like that's the big game. Those are the only things going on in El Centro at that time. You're going to have the entire city on top of you in that loud gym. That's a tough matchup. I think Central gets it.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Escondido Charter, Rancho Buena Vista. Escondido's the 13. They will be taking on number 4, Rancho Buena Vista. I'm assuming we like RBV here.
Yeah, I love David Dosick as a guy and as a coach. Done a great job with Escondido Charter over the years.
It's so shitty when the coaches that we like as good fundamental human beings are not in situations where we can just be like, we're your champion.
I know. I mean, and honestly,
realism sucks.
Honestly, had they played West Hills, I thought they could actually beat West Hills too because they pose a mismatch with speed. But this RBV team has speed on the perimeter, and they've got some physicality on the inside. I like
and
RBV.
Credit to RBV for surviving graduation over the last couple years because they've lost a couple pieces that you could have thought, oh, maybe that point guard or maybe that center would be the piece that was holding it all together. But no, they have kept being pretty good.
Adding a really good, an elite level freshman like CJ Aldridge helps the cause for sure.
Yes, and we'll put that on the poll as well at SD Prep Insiders, where you can always find all of our polls. Does adding an elite level freshman help to anything in life?
I love it.
Westview and Olympian. Westview's the 11. Olympian is the 6. I love when Marty Ellis has a chance to make a little something happen in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's got a physically somewhat undersized team, maybe. They don't have, big dudes going banging under the hoop. But they still seem like they have a team that has it figured out for their style of play, how they're going to get it done. So I like them advancing here over Westview.
I think I picked Westview last night in this one.
Because Westview always got one in them.
Yeah.
They have since they took down TJ Leaf. They always got one in the chamber, man.
Got one in the chamber. And I like...
We'll put that on the poll, too. Does Westview always got one in the chamber?
They play with a level of physicality And, they've got guys who really guard and get after defensively. Now, granted, Marty Ellis was spot on at the beginning of this year when he told me that he thought that they'd be in a good position in Division III. Here they are as the 6th seed, getting to host a game. The transfer Jamal Kendrick from Mater Dei Catholic has been fantastic. Probably the most improved sophomore in San Diego. There's just something about Westview that I think, in terms of just like their physicality, that may give the young guys over at Olympian a little trouble.
So you're going with Westview there. Deal.
Westview.
Love it. On to the next one. Number 14, Morse travels to take on number 3, Ramona.
So when I talked about picking 1 or 2 in the field,
you like Ramona?
I like Ramona as
part of that field compilation. Yes.
Victory and Ramona are probably the 2 teams I would say. Even though, believe it or not, when we get there, High Tech High beat Ramona earlier this year, 61-49. That was a shock to me. But in this matchup, I love Ramona in terms of, having 2 guys who were just absolutely elite scorers, Dalton Orvell, Chase Newman.
Works for me.
They're pretty good. And Morse, shout out to them because they did not look like a playoff team at the beginning of the year. They've won 8 of their last 14, so they're playing well, but I don't think
they got
enough.
there. It's cool.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Love it for them. Maranatha Christian takes on number 7. Number 10, Maranatha Christian takes on number 7, Valhalla. I like Valhalla in this one.
I do too. Zachy Moncod had a really great year for the Norsemen, and the Maranatha team is a team of the future. Their 2 best players are freshmen, Ezekiel Walker, Adrian Omby, both all-league first-team guys. Congrats to them. And they weathered losing their best player at the very first quarter of the first game of the season with a torn ACL, and that was Joel Schwantner. Shout out to Joel. He's played in the cream of the county a few years. Really big fan of his.
Can I say, side note, you just talk about events, and this is awful to shove this in 42 minutes into our podcast, but bro, you got yourself like an all-star showcase that you're doing, you versus Flicks. That's very cool. We will get to that. That'll be a whole other thing, but I just want to say, let's go, man. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I like it. Yep. What were we talking about?
Playoffs.
All right. So anything left on Maranatha, Valhalla game, or can we move on to Point Loma High Tech?
Valhalla is my pick.
All right. Number 15, Point Loma takes on number 2, High Tech High San Diego in the lone rogue High Tech that is not loaded into that D5 bracket.
I gotta love what they've done though. The Storm as a program. I mean, last year they were in. I want to say they were in Division III as well, and made a nice run there. Made it to the quarters. Last year they were, they beat Madison at home last season, graduated their best player, didn't know if they would be as good, and they were better this year. They've had some guys who've really stepped up. Noah Sadat, man, the little 5'6" point guard they have, he's a stud. I love watching him play. And then they had a 5th-year senior, Noah Durab, who was able to finish his career healthy, and just, growing into, a great young kid, and he's had a great year. And Tommy Rashad has had a really good year. But I'll tell you, the MVP
hit me with
is their gym. It is one of the toughest places in San Diego to play. I've seen many teams go in there that they just assume they're going to roll this team. It's small dimensions. It's very loud in there. Like when the crowd gets into it, it gets really
Yeah, I have experienced the high tech thing kind of weird because I kind of, not that I was being a hater, but I was kind of perpetually over the last couple of years waiting for them to fade back into obscurity and it be like, oh, cool.
It was a fun couple years.
They got a dub. They got a whatever. There was that guy. This school and its administration are not athletically driven. They are not out here to be like, send us everybody. Let's recruit. Let's build. Nom, 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 nom. Mm-hmm. But they just kind of like you said, they fostered a fun environment on campus. Mm-hmm. They convinced the kids to like the sport, to show up, and the results are not bad.
Not at all.
And are not going away anytime soon.
You're the 2 seed in Division III, which means more than likely they're moving into D2 next year.
And their volleyball team was in a championship game this year for their girls, and their baseball team has been pretty good the last couple. Like they're just, like I've said, aggregately across the board, they're good.
Sound like a sports school to me a little bit.
I would hesitate to go all that way because I don't think they get kids into high tech specific. That's where I qualify the threshold for when you're like, oh, well, and also, Tyler Buckner technically is a Helix alumni because certain schools will get anybody in that they can for athletics. But yeah, no, I'm with you. But on to D3 or on to D2.
Let's move on.
Otay Ranch, number 1. Lincoln, number 2. I will ask you, Otay, Lincoln, or the field.
I'm going Otay, Lincoln.
I'm going specifically just Lincoln on this one. Just out of nothing else other than I want the story of
having
Lincoln.
A football championship and a basketball championship.
And doing it without necessarily, like, this is not a bunch of the football team playing on the basketball team and just, like, physically muscling their way through this.
In fact, it's quite the opposite. Like,
they only have, like, one, if that, on varsity, don't they? Like, they don't have anybody that's necessarily like.
Did Jamarian Sykes play football this year?
If he did, he wasn't necessarily Roddy Robinson.
No, I don't think they have a football guy.
Yeah, deal. I love it. All right.